Welcome back to Masters on the Move. Today, I'm chatting with someone who's spent more than 20 years helping people move better, recover faster, and live stronger lives. Avi Lukhan is a senior physiotherapist at Physio Moves in East Auckland, a health coach and a motivational speaker. He's worked with Olympic athletes, including as a physiotherapist for Team South Africa in the Rio 2016 and Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games. He now brings that same level of expertise to everyday athletes, including masters runners and active older adults. Avi is passionate about helping people stay stronger and injury-free as they age. And today, we're going to talk about how strength training builds resilience, how nutrition and mindset play into performance, and why learning to be happy daily might just be the key to long-term health. Avi, great to have you on the show. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Justin, for the opportunity, and hello to all the listeners out there.
Avi, you've had an incredible 20-year journey in physiotherapy. Can you tell us how it all began and what first drew you into this field?
Justin, when I was 16, I thought for sure I was going to be an accountant. Absolutely love numbers. One day I got injured and I had a personal experience with a physiotherapist. I was amazed that there was a field of medicine that dealt with exercise and just communication, and that day literally changed the course of my life. And here we are.
You've represented South Africa as a physiotherapist at both the Rio 2016 and Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games. What were those experiences like, and what did you learn from working at that elite level?
Well, firstly, let me say I was really fortunate to be selected and very blessed. It sounds cliche, but those were literally a dream come true. I got to see people like Novak Djokovic, Rafael Nadal. I got to see Usain Bolt run twice in my life.
Wow.
And there's no better experience than watching your fellow countrymen win a medal and then you get to sing the national anthem. It really brings tears to your eyes. What amazed me is to see the level of preparation that goes into, say, for example, an Olympic Games. In Rio 2016, the athletic performance or preparation starts at London 2012. And it's really cyclical. Athletes need to peak at the Games.
Yes.
So their preparation throughout the year, it's, for example, when we were in, say, Rio or Tokyo, it's not Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It's day 1 pre-competition, day 7 pre-competition, and everything is geared towards that one goal. To see athletes really treat sport as their job was also something that was different to me working in clinical practice.
Right. That's amazing. What an experience. So what brought you to New Zealand and to Physio Moves in East Auckland?
Well, happy wife, happy life, right? My wife had an opportunity to further her career. She is a physiotherapist as well. Don't tell anyone this, but she's actually the better one in the family. She had an opportunity. Her field of physio is slightly different in a field called lymphedema, and she was offered a post here. And you know what? We decided the world is meant for living. It's meant for a big adventure. Let's try it and see what happens. And here we are. It just so happens that we moved into an area where there's a phenomenal physio clinic in Physio Moves, led by a phenomenal practice owner and a great team. And here we are.
That is fantastic, Avi. Welcome to New Zealand.
Thank
You're
you.
also known as a health coach and a motivational speaker. How do those roles complement your work as a physiotherapist?
Well, you know, I've been qualified as a physio for more than 20 years. The first half of my career, I went on courses to learn every technique, every exercise, everything that I could do to physically help someone. But you know what? It's no point teaching someone the right exercise if their nutrition, their sleep, other criteria in their health and recovery is not dialed in. So you learn that you don't treat an injury, you're treating a person. And being a health coach has taught me to approach injury in a very holistic manner. furthermore, I think that when you're a physio, people come to you for answers. So you used to talking and prescribing. But as a coach, you learn to ask the right questions. So that's further enhanced my communication as a physio. And in terms of being a speaker, I mean, any person who becomes a physio or any field in the medical profession, we're here to help and serve people. And being a speaker has allowed me to do it to make more than one person at a time. And I'm passionate about speaking and I'm passionate about serving. So it's really helped.
You've worked with both Olympic athletes and everyday runners. How does your approach differ between the two?
I think with the Olympic or elite level athletes, they make for a lot better photographs. Now, that's a joke. That's a joke. Um, I think that if you're say you're a masters runner, you might run 3, 4, 5 times a week. But when you're an elite athlete, you're training 2 to 3 times a day. You're not going to work and then having to do your sport. It is your job. So I realized that your approach has to be a lot more intense and focused towards that
Right.
because their activity is a lot more intense.
Yes.
I think also elite athletes face a lot more pressures to perform. If your calf is injured and you can't run this weekend, hey, it's no big deal. But if you're going to miss the Commonwealth Games or if you're injured at that, then the pressure is really on you. And it really teaches you to work under those pressure situations.
Right. Many of our listeners are masters age runners. What do you see as the most common movement or strength deficits that we develop as we get older?
Okay, so there's something that I've coined personally, and I call it the 5 C's of
Uh-huh.
modern lifestyle. That's the car, couch, computer, cell phone, and chair.
Yes.
There are 5 reasons that force us to be in a very flexed, internally rotated posture.
Right.
The body is designed to compensate. When one area is tight, then the other area has to work harder. As a result, you find that there are deficits within, we call it the posterior chain, the glutes, the hamstrings, the calves. So that tends to be a lot of the imbalances that we see in practice.
Right.
Now, something else, if we can think of us in terms of strength deficits, if you think of a squat, you're moving in an up and down plane. If you think of a lunge, you're moving in a forward and back plane. But life is 3-dimensional. So we often forget the lateral or the transverse plane. And there tend to be imbalances or strength deficits within your lateral stabilizers of, say, the hip and the body.
Right. Why is
Sure.
strength training so essential for older runners, and how does it build resilience against injury?
Oh, that's a great question. I think that there's a misconception that strength training is for younger folk. But in all my years of practice, do you know what no person over the age of 40 has ever told me, Justin?
Mm-hmm.
No one's ever told me, man, I wish I wasn't this strong. Man, I wish I didn't carry so
Yeah.
much of muscle.
Yeah, that's true.
You find that the natural process of aging results in muscle loss. Our tendons become less sort of elastic, and bones begin to lose their density. Uh, So think of strength training as an insurance policy.
Right.
Running is a repetitive, loaded activity, and strength training allows your muscles, bones, joints, connective tissue to handle more load for longer periods of time.
Right.
And you get to look sexy.
Yeah. That's the top reason to do it.
I should have started with that, actually.
Yeah,
Damn it.
yeah, you should have. What are your top strength exercises or movement patterns that every runner over 40 should include in their weekly routine?
Hmm. Now, before I answer this, let me say no two people are alike. So the question is, or the answer to that question is always going to be, it depends, or it's nuanced to each person based on their life, their imbalances in terms of their muscles and so forth. But
Yes.
for that, you'd need to be assessed by, say, someone like a physiotherapist or a good running coach. But your exercise or your activity should be should be functionally relevant to the sort of sport that you do. So if you think of running, even though you run with both your legs, it's one leg at a time.
Mm.
So I tend to favor single leg movements in things like a step up, which is a single leg activity for the posterior chain, or a step down, a lunge, or even a split squat, which are single leg activities for both the anterior and the posterior chain. Now, the benefit of training single leg training versus a two-legged exercise like a squat is that it promotes balance, strength, and mobility if done correctly. And that really boosts athletic performance and translates directly into running or the the stride.
Right. That definitely makes sense.
Mm.
Are there certain muscles or areas runners consistently undertrain that lead to preventable injuries?
Well, running is a very quad dominant activity. So there tends to be stronger quads than other areas. And that coupled with our modern lifestyle, as I explained, the 5 Cs,
Yes.
the posterior chain, your glutes, your hamstrings, as well as your lateral stabilizers tend to be neglected areas.
Right. So, from your experience, what's the most misunderstood concept about injury prevention in running?
There are two things specifically that come to mind. Number one is, and this is just based on my experience, clients tend to confuse warm ups and stretching, and they see warm ups and stretching as the same thing, whereas it's not. A warm up is something designed to get the blood flow going, to increase your body temperature, to prepare you for the movement. And stretching in itself is something help to uh, elongate joints and muscles to their full sort of movement. Now, one can use a type of stretching within a warm up, something like dynamic stretching, where you are performing a stretch with movement. So that would be the first misconception. The second thing would be that stretching alone does not prevent injury. Now, that blows a lot of people's minds away, but very often something can be. Okay, think about it like this, Justin. A symptom in a body is like a subtitle to a movie. A subtitle is merely translating what the actor or actress is trying to say.
Yes.
If you stiffen an area, it may say that, or the actor may be trying to say that maybe I'm weak somewhere else. Maybe
Right.
this is overworking because something else is underworking.
Yes.
Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't stretch. I'm not saying that at all. But I believe that you should find out the reason why something is getting tight in the first place and correct that imbalance.
Avi, so give us an idea. What would a good warm up look like then?
Okay, so a warm up would be something that can be geared towards the athletic endeavor you're about to do. For example, with running, you could start off with a brisk walk or even a light jog, but not your usual pace that you'd normally run at, just getting the body going. That does two things. Number one, it gets the heart rate going, it gets your body temperature up. But number two, it also boosts your motor units, your muscle memory or your neuromuscular pathways. And that is preparing your body for this sort of movement pattern. Something that I recommend to my clients is yes, warm up in that direction in terms of the movement you're going to do, but do a 30-second plank, do a few glute bridges, do a few lateral stabilizer exercises. And before you actually start running, I would do a few dynamic warm ups. That's or dynamic stretches, a movement like swinging your legs back and forth to create a dynamic stretch on the quads as well as the hamstrings, or even bending forward to touch your toes, a single leg at a time. And that activates your stretch reflexes as well, which prepares you for the running activity.
Fabulous. How can runners identify the difference between good soreness from training and the
Mhm.
early signs of injury?
Oh, that's a great question. Um, well, if everyone knew the answer to this, I wouldn't have a job then, would I?
True.
Man, well, as physios, we tend to use a something called a pain scale.
Yes.
So we ask clients to evaluate their pain symptoms level, with 0 being no pain and 10 being the worst possible pain ever. I mean, that sounds like childbirth, or to men, the man flu, right?
Yes.
so if you feel after performing or during performing something that you have a 3 to 4 out of 10 intensity, and when you're done with the exercise, you have a dull ache, and that lasts for about 24, maximum 48 hours, that can be considered a training related sort of pain, or pain,
Yes.
I use that in inverted commas.
Yes.
But if you are feeling something on your pain scale much higher than that, and the symptoms are quite sharp, it's acute, and it's inhibiting you from performing at your best, then that's something that needs to be looked at, which might be the early onset of an injury or something that can develop into it henceforth.
Right. Avi, we touched slightly on stretching there. Just let's dig a little bit deeper into that. What role does mobility and flexibility play in keeping runners healthy? And can we overdo stretching?
Well, mobility and stretching play a massive role. Firstly, as we aging, the body tends to stiffen up and get tighter. So that doesn't just help us with running; it helps us in all aspects of life. But um, let's let's answer that question in the form of an example that I see all the time in clinic. If you're a runner and you have reduced ankle mobility, now your ankle can either plantarflex, think of a tiptoe, or dorsiflex, think of your toes moving upwards. If you have limited dorsiflexion, the body is designed to compensate either something above or something below. If you have reduced ankle mobility, it's a very good chance that your body is going to compensate and impact or load that knee a lot harder. So you see that runners have anterior or front knee pain because of reduced ankle mobility.
Right.
Now, in terms of overstretching, the answer to that is yes, you can overstretch. Remember, as a runner, you do want some degree of tension because that allows for springiness, reactiveness. It's important to have a sense of dynamic mobility than just passively stretching. Now,
Right.
what do I mean by that is your body stiffens you up as a protective mechanism. If I have to move through a certain range, if I was here and then I moved a little further, my nervous system then asks, do I have the strength in that new range? And if the answer is no, it shortens up again. So it's important to have strength throughout the range. So sometimes doing stability work or strength work can actually improve your flexibility without stretching more.
Right.
Mm.
Okay, let's get on to another topic. I want your opinion on nutrition. You've been known to say that people often change wholesome, healthy food sources into over-processed, not so healthy versions. In your opinion, how important is the right kind of nutrition in supporting recovery and performance, especially as we age?
Justin, I'm not sure I'm qualified to answer this question anymore with the amount of sugar that I've eaten over Diwali. So, you know, oh man, I mean, you wouldn't fill the wrong fuel in your vehicle. The car just wouldn't work properly.
Mm,
So, nutrition is your ultimate fuel source. At the end of the day, basics are basics. Uh, Stay properly hydrated, get adequate protein, get enough fiber. And I think that you have to treat nutrition like the fuel to your vehicle because it is what's going to power you. So nutrition is incredibly important.
mm.
If you factor in the fact that as you get older, your recovery is slower, it's more important for your nutrition to be dialed in.
Yes. And sticking to those whole foods and not over-processed where the goodness has been removed through the processing quite often too, eh?
No, absolutely. Uh,
Yes.
I have if you're unsure if something is processed or unprocessed,
Yes.
I have this little play on words where think of something is God made or man made.
Yes.
God made an orange, man made orange juice. God
Aha.
made a potato, man made French fries. So try to stick to as many God made foods as possible.
That's great advice. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
What are some of the biggest nutritional mistakes you see endurance athletes making?
Well, I think number one is not prioritizing protein because running, especially endurance running, you burn a high number of calories.
Yes.
And if you don't adequately replenish that, you're going to get muscle breakdown. The body needs energy from somewhere. And unfortunately, muscle is a highly metabolic tissue where it draws that energy from. So once again, the basics are the basics. Proper hydration and getting your electrolytes in, getting good fiber from good sources or God-made sources, and adequate protein intake. And that will vary from person to person, but it's important to know what your body weight and your training goals are. And if you're really unsure, work with a nutritionist. Um,
Yes.
mm.
That's sound advice. Avi, you also speak about learning to be happy daily. What does that mean to you, and how do you personally practice it?
It means taking lots of drugs and avoiding difficult problems. Oh
Okay.
man. Yes, I believe that happiness is, we think of it as an emotion, as a fleeting emotion, but happiness is actually a skill. What you focus on in life is what you get. So
Yes.
focus on gratitude, focus on framing things in a positive manner. Now, by no means am I saying that you be falsely positive. You be happy when you meant to be sad. I'm not saying that at all. But I find that uh, doing things full of purpose, doing things that are challenging, and really becoming, I think a level of self awareness defines what happiness to each person. I think it's important to firstly define it. And
Hmm.
then once you have that self awareness, do as many things daily to get it done. For me, that revolves around time with my family, being mindful. I enjoy journaling and activity, moving.
Yes. Fantastic. From a sports physiology standpoint, what changes occur in muscle tissue and recovery rate as we age, and how can we best adapt our training to accommodate that?
That's a great question. In terms of physiology, there's a number of things that happen to the body as we age, and
Yes.
it's especially noticeable from your 30s, but it's accelerated from 50 onwards. Firstly, in terms of muscle, there's a process known as sarcopenia, and
Mm,
that's muscle loss. And
mm.
that's going to happen naturally, whether we like it or not. But we can slow that down with strength training, as we've mentioned, uh, proper recovery, good nutrition. Secondly, is your ability to recover is reduced. Now, tissue recovers or muscle recovers through satellite cells and protein synthesis, and that process tends to slow down as we age. From a physiological standpoint, if you think of your connective tissue structures, such as your tendons, they lose their elasticity. And sorry, Justin, coming back to the muscles, your the major difference between someone really, really young versus someone in their last decade in life is the reduction of their fast twitch fibers, the ability to explode, to move really quickly. If you think of an example of someone falling over and breaking their hip, yes, you might think initially that's a balance issue, but it's actually an explosive power issue because that period of readjusting to quickly throw your hands out to move your legs, that's a fast twitch muscle fiber.
Right.
And that's something that it's something that can be trained or preserved. Speaking of physiological changes, A big thing that happens, and you feel it in the lack of maybe energy, is your hormone changes as you get older. Now, as men, hormones like testosterone naturally declines and really accelerates when there's stresses on the body. Stresses such as lack of sleep, poor nutrition, alcohol, and life stresses, emotional and physical. But for women, it's specifically enhanced. Women undergo the big M, known as menopause. And the irony is that there's a man in menopause, there's men in menopause. And it changes a woman's bone density, cardiovascular endurance, as well as muscle mass. So you might be the same weight as you were pre versus post menopause, but your body composition is different. And those physiological changes happen subtly before it happens very quickly. And if you think of one of the most common injuries with women over the age of 60 are falls and breaking their hips. And when that happens, your life is changed drastically and forever. And finally, another physiological effect that happens is we lose, or there's a reduction in those motor units, those neuromuscular components that help with coordination. Things like balance. If you've ever watched cricket, you'll see a batsman as he ages, they use the expression of he's lost his eye or he doesn't have that, because that tends to slow down as we get older. So how do we prevent it? Well, strength training, uh, focus on good recovery, like nutrition,
Yes.
sleep. Something important that I'm not sure is spoken about enough is also periodization. If we go back to Olympic athletes, they don't go hard all the time. They can't. The body doesn't allow it. So periodization means you go through certain weeks where you're at a tougher training, higher intensity, and a recovery week. Or an example of this might be for 3 weeks, you really push it, and 1 week you take it easy. So you allow the body to recovery. And
Yes.
that's the way in which you train and you sort of, I won't say beat the physiology, but adapt to it as you age.
That was going to be one of my questions, is how we can apply some of these Olympic um, standards or the principles and performance principles to every day. And I do see that often too, is that
Mm.
people tend to just push hard all the time. We causing damage to those muscles during our training. And without that recovery, um, we don't allow us to allow our bodies to build back stronger.
And, Justin, I think um, if I think of, say, someone like yourself or your listeners, when you're a runner, all you want to do is run,
Yes.
especially if you're an endurance runner. And when someone hears the word recovery or rest, it's, we're in such a hustle mentality or, no days off. But rest does not mean not moving.
No.
Rest could mean a gentle walk. Rest could mean cross training with a swim or something else. You can have something known as active rest, where you are still moving and moving is good for the body, but not in a way that promotes injury or doesn't allow the body to recover.
Yes. And I think the other thing too is that we must, in our minds, realize that rest or recovery, rather, is part of the training. It's just as
Absolutely.
important as with the actual session that we've done.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Are there any emerging trends or technologies in physiotherapy that you are particularly excited about?
Man, there's a few things that I personally haven't tried. You see it comes up, but it's maybe not in the sense of physiotherapy, but more in recovery. And it's actually techniques that have been around for a long time, but now we have the literature to back up the anecdotal experiences. Things like your use of sauna or ice baths, or things like uh, tendon training or tendon loading to help specific, like runners, Achilles or hip sort of injuries. I think to also be a little left field here, I'm more excited about the technology that's emerging. I mean, I can say that I am a 42-year-old runner with these sort of injuries. I can put that into ChatGPT. This is my body weight. What should be my ideal macro requirements? What should be my ideal days of training? And it gives you such a nuanced, tailored approach. And I think that's what I'm excited for, because I think of when I started exercising in my teens. We used to watch videos or read magazines. I used to look at Men's Health
Yeah.
magazine and try to get this workout, and the next week it's a different workout, and so much confusion. So I'm more excited about the tailored approach to an individual rather than a one size fits all.
Avi, if you could give one piece of advice to runners who want to stay strong, mobile, and happy into their 60s and beyond, what would it be?
Well, one bit of advice. Wow, that doesn't narrow it down at all. If you if you love running, and running is something that you want to do for your physical, your mental, your emotional health, then ask yourself, what are one or two strength exercises that I can do to help me running? What are one or two mobility exercises? What are one or two recovery principles? And just adapt one thing per month,
Mm,
just because you find that the last thing you want to do is have an injury. An
yes.
injury sets you back. I mean, you can have an injury at 20, but an injury at 60 sets you back months.
Mm,
So learn to cross train, learn to focus on your recovery, and learn to optimize what you're doing bit by bit, as you're going along.
yes.
And yeah, so that was more than one thing, Justin.
No,
So
that's
hard to
fine.
pinpoint.
Yeah, no, I understand it. And all of it too is revolved around just making sure you take the correct amount of recovery as well and just be patient with yourself. Hey, Avi, how can listeners contact with you and learn more about your work at Physio Moves?
Well, you can contact me directly. I mean, I'm on social media through Facebook, Instagram. I also have a YouTube channel. If you look for Avi Physio and Physio Moves, if you go to our website, www.physiomoves.co.nz, based out in East Auckland in the Flatbush and Botany area. Yeah, we're here to serve.
Fantastic. I'll put a link in the show notes as well for people to find you there.
Perfect.
Avi, that was such a great conversation. Thank you for sharing your experience and knowledge. I really appreciate the way that you've simplified a complicated topic, especially the focus on strength, movement quality, and keeping nutrition real and wholesome. I love your message about finding happiness in every day. That's something that we can all take to heart and put into our daily lives. I love your 5 C's. Was it five?
5 Cs, yes.
That's
I
great.
see. Thank you so much for the opportunity. It was really my honor. And thank you for what you're doing in promoting such a positive message in helping the listeners stay active and informed. So well done to you too.
Fantastic. And just before we wrap up, just a quick reminder to our listeners, the ideas that we've discussed today are for general information and education only. They're not a substitute for personal medical advice, so always check with a qualified health professional before you make any changes to your training, rehab, or diet. Avi, thanks again for being part of Masters on the Move. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you.
And to everyone listening, thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend, leave a quick review, and follow Masters on the Move wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, keep smiling, keep happy, and keep moving.